Live streaming is on.
Nice. Okay, so let's just start with what is one interesting thing you learned this week in general, and any intentions for the call. So biggest thing I learned this week is that it's amazing how just going with a normal website plan and meeting in person can really speed up a project, because we have I feel like we've finally started this project and set it going in the right direction with Sam and I hanging out in person and getting rid of the Google Colab. And now everything seems to be falling into place. So that's pretty cool. My main intentions for the call are to go over the MVP spec and the 1.0 spec for our plan to build out the front end of the model. And I'll pass it to Spunet.
Yeah, so last week, so I've been trying to catch up a little bit with the work, so I haven't been all that active lately, but my expectations for the call right now are, again, to see where I can collaborate or contribute, and where I could be of most use to contribute. That's my intention for the call. Ravi, how about you?
Ravi,
Ravi,
you're muted.
So the one thing I learned this week was that it's amazing how quickly scope creep just blows up the size of a project. We've been going through that this week with new customers, and it's been an interesting process to see them go from 4 items to 7 items to 12 items with the same budget and the same timeline. So that was a fascinating little process. As far as intentions, I think I just want to see how much I can participate in the development of the narrative and the description of variables, the inputs. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, it's perfect. Hold on just a second. Let me see, someone's knocking on my door. Hey, no, I'm sorry, we can't hang out. Lorelai's asleep still. Okay, so agenda topics. Does anyone have anything that they especially want to cover?
Nothing specific for me.
No, nothing specific either.
Okay, so then for me, it's just the 1.0 spec and then the MVP spec. And that's it. So let's see. There is a document called Commons CadCAD Sim 1.0 spec. I'll put it in the Jitsi Meet just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And maybe I'll even share screens. What the hell? Might be fun. So, okay, so this is what we're thinking for the end goal of this project. It's kind of dreamy, and I'm really excited to have Spunet on the team because he did a lot of this kind of stuff with Swarm City, right? Where you kind of make this fun narrative around the actual code base. So the goal is to give people the chance to try to parameterize a sustainable commons ecosystem. So they get led from screen to screen with the storyline of them picking a specific commons that they want to support. Like maybe it's end global warming commons, or maybe it's token engineering research commons, or support the orphans commons, and then we have a storyline around each of those commons that they pick. So the first screen will just be like, hey, what kind of commons do you want to pick? And they'll have those choices. Let's say they want to help orphans. That's my favorite one. So they want to help
Hey,
orphans.
Griff, sorry, quick
Yeah.
question. Are you sharing your screen right now?
I'm trying to. Did it not share?
Okay. Yeah, I can't really see it. Go on, though.
Swanet, can you see my screen?
No, it says that you're having connectivity issues. So I'm also just seeing a blank screen now.
Okay, I will refresh. Although I'm just going through the Google Doc too, so.
Yeah, I'm in the Google Doc as well. So.
So if both of you guys are in the Google Doc, then it doesn't really matter so much. So
Yeah.
screen 1, screen 0 is where they pick which public good. Oh, well, can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So the first screen is just where they pick their commons. We're going to say they pick the orphans commons. They want to support orphans, and they're in Seattle. And then screen 1 will be where they define their community. So they will pick the number of hatchers that they have starting the commons, and the number of proposals per year that are offered to the commons. And just those two. Now, if they want to go crazy, they'll have an advanced parameters that they can input as well. That'll be like how many more participants join per hatcher, the initial sentiment, and the sentiment decay. These are just variables in the that like describe how quickly people approval of the commons like goes down if they don't pass proposals. So this affects the price, and it has a lot of impact on the CAD sim. But these will be like advanced. So we'll kind of hide them, and but people can use them if they want. They won't have a story around it. Only these ones will have like a story built around them. And then after they pick these parameters, there'll be a network graph of like how all the hatchers connect with the participants, and we'll display some proposals and stuff like that. And then
and this is the thing that's already coming out of that Colab Python book that we have there.
Yeah, so all the parameters are things that are in the cadCAD sim, but the outputs, they don't actually need cadCAD to run for these graphs. So it's just JavaScript, and it can just pop out really quickly. So we can give people like immediate gratification after every input that they give.
Yeah, I see.
In fact, like you can see hatchers, when they select the number of hatchers, they'll get a graph. When they select the number of proposals, they'll get a graph. And then we use theta and vesting for the defining the hatch. And they'll get a couple of graphs and the output. And again, this will all be within a story, right? So the orphan story will have like explain like how much money goes to orphans and how much money goes to backing the orphan economy, right? And vesting will be how committed are the orphan leaders to supporting this economy, something like that. And then we have the third screen, which is kappa, and actually, is kappa, which is like the curvature, and then the exit tribute, which is the exit tax whenever someone sells. And then we define conviction voting, and you can see we just pick two 2 parameters for everything, and then we put the other ones as advanced parameters that they could input. So they define the community, the hatch, the bonding curve, conviction voting, and then on screen 5, we have to like actually run cadCAD, and so we'll put some extra graphs here and just kind of like something for them to watch while they wait. And then screen 6 is where it gets really interesting. They've run cadCAD and they've either won or lost. Either the orphan commons fails and they get to see how it fails, or they've actually created a sustainable commons and it succeeds and they can see how it succeeds. And we see these in 2 graphs. The first graph is like how much money is in the funding pool over time. And so you can kind of see like the money will slowly increase and then have big drops where the proposals are being spent. And if it loses, then it looks something like that. Number go down and not many proposals passing. And then the other chart that we'll show is the price chart over time. And it will show like how much money the hatchers made and a few other things like that. And it's very likely that most of the time people will lose. The commons will not be successful. It's very hard. I think it'll be very hard to find the right balance where you find a sustainable commons. And one of the things we'll have to see is if we can even do it, and if we can create a sustainable commons with things like with this design. But yeah, that's the general 1.0 plan.
Yeah, and just a quick question: the calculations that are being done to create these JavaScript graphs, they will actually be the actual calculations ported to JavaScript, or is it sort of a mock-up?
For these graphs, it'll be I think it'll just be JavaScript.
Yeah, but there are like some calculations behind it to draw that network graph, for example. That's now implemented in Python, is it?
Yeah, which graph are you thinking of?
Yeah, like in that first screen, I believe it is, where you have to put in like number of participants and or the amount of hatchers. I think that's it. Screen 1, define your community.
Yeah, you know,
depending on those. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure where the Python and the JavaScript goes between. I know that we won't have to run full-on cadCAD for any of these graphs, but maybe like we actually have a preliminary thing. So like we can run, and it sure looks like the same Python graphs that pop up before. So it's probably still Python.
Yeah, these ones indeed. Yeah.
But I'm not.
I was just wondering if they're how they are rendered. Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's not a real topic for now, but
I
was just wondering.
I'm pretty confident for the MVP spec, we're going to try to do as little as possible. But when we get to the 1.0 spec, I'm not sure if we'll decide to make some of these run in JavaScript so that they look better, and we can make it a little bit easier to like integrate them into a nice looking website, or if we'll keep them in Python, and that's possible with Python. I'm not sure. Sem unfortunately is sick today, and he's generally the person to ask about these things.
Okay, no problem.
And actually, I should make sure that this is in our thing. So yeah, that's our 1.0 spec. Do you guys have any other questions on this?
No, I think it looks good. It makes sense.
So remember we kind of talked about the possibility of a guided walkthrough in some sense, where when someone signs up for the first time, they would have a wizard basically that walks them through it. Is that something that maybe happens in 2.0 or?
Well, the idea here is that the screen should be simple enough that it basically is the wizard, right? So it's like you have you have one input in the first screen, and that's it, and you get to pick like, okay, you want to help orphans or do you want to help the environment? Okay, you pick orphans, and then in the second screen, which we call screen one, it's like, okay, how many people can you get to gather in your original community? And it says everything in normal words, and then they pick a number, and how many proposals per year will your community? How many ideas to help orphans will your community want to fund, or something like that per year? And it'll be like very normal words, story, like just building the story.
Okay.
And and then when we and I think and this 1.0 spec is actually much less built out than our MVP spec, which is one page and has been trimmed down and might be even a little more simple to understand.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Well, are you guys down to go through maybe the MVP spec?
Yep. Lead the way.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because this is what Sem is working on right now. Of course, with thoughts on the future as well. He's got this extra text here, and he has an advanced tab, because it's actually really easy to just leave the advanced tab in from the beginning. Although it's not like we're not really worried about it working perfectly. So the MVP spec. We get rid of the storyline and we just focus on tackling some of the technical challenges that we'll see. So, okay, yes, we just pick the number of hatchers, we pick the number of proposals per year, and then we display the graphs that follow that. Vesting, we have to figure out, like, how do we want to ask the user about vesting? That's kind of a challenge here. So like number of days, like the cliff and the half-life, and making that one easy slider for them, and then data. And so in the hatch page, we actually run the hatch and we'll display a randomized initial donation that they receive. And then, so that's like, we run the hatch, and then we actually have them define the bonding curve, and we use curvature and exit tribute as our main things here. And we're still debating on whether or not we show like basically the graph that DapLion made for the website, the ABC demo. We're still playing with whether or not that ends up making it. And then we show the exit tribute. Should be an easy little graph there. And then when we get to conviction voting, it gets kind of interesting. So alpha is this just like crazy idea that no one really understands. And so we're thinking about doing it as the time to reach 80% voting power, like 80% of your conviction. And and displaying this in a number of days, where each time unit is a day. And then we would show your CV sim on it to show people like how if they extend the number of days, how it extends the amount of how their conviction grows or decays based off of this time. But then it derives alpha, but we just hide alpha from the user.
Yeah, just make sure that, because in the latest version, I'm using another formula that I came up with to calculate that conviction. So it's not the same function anymore. So I mean, it's still on the GitHub if you revert to a previous version. And also that in the change formula that I'm using, it's that alpha has a sort of a different meaning there. So, but I assume if you say this like that, that alpha results into or determines another value like that 18% voting power. Does that also mean that you have a new formula to calculate either the threshold or the curve itself?
No, we would just use the 80% to the time. We would just map alpha to time user inputs. And so if they put in 3 days, well, then that means an alpha of 0.8 or something, right? And so we would just map the various inputs to an alpha. But I don't know how deep we've looked at your new calculation, but we could probably just do the same mapping, where it's we use the same equations, or we use whatever equation works to make the CV sim graph, and then we just map a time to an alpha.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
But we'll see. And then we would create a threshold graph. The basically that weird log graph that has the beta asymptote, and we would have people change the proposal amount. After they've picked an alpha, then we can display the beta as well. Because if they change alpha, then that also changes the curve that we see in the threshold formula, I think. Maybe not, I'm not sure.
It doesn't.
But yep, and then they have the waiting screen again. And in the first MVP, we're not going to have a queue integrated, so it'll just break if 2 people come in. But basically, once we have the MVP working, then the next step is to create something that will make it easy for people to wait in line for using cadCAD. And then we just display, then the cadCAD runs and it displays the funding pool value over time, price of commons tokens over time. So
I think that's
the plan.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's no those CatCat simulations. They always have to be run in on a backend that we provide. There's no way that people can run that.
Yeah.
In their own browser or anything like that.
That's so it doesn't run in a browser, but we were trying to do this with Google Colab, where we would where we would basically like let them run it themselves, and Google would run it for us. So everyone would be running their own version of cadCAD, and then Google would be handling it. But we just couldn't get people to gather around using Google as a backend, so.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Understandable to some extent.
It's too bad, because I thought it would work well. And another group was doing that for this AI thing, and it worked pretty well, and it was pretty cool. But
The Dungeons
this
and
will
Dragons one?
work.
Was that what you were
What?
talking about? The Dungeons and Dragons AI based engine?
Yeah, exactly.
That was pretty.
I mean, it was like you had to wait, I don't know, like sometimes an hour to download the whole thing, but
massive, yeah. Massive.
it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think ours was going to wait an hour.
I mean,
You know,
not
but
nearly as complicated as theirs. At least not what's currently being built.
yeah, exactly. It's not like CatCAD is an AI that we have to upload or anything. So, but this will work. I mean, the only thing is I mean, and I can't imagine that we're going to ever have more than like 5 people looking at it at the same time. You know, maybe just right when we make the tweet about it, maybe people will start lining up, but then after that, I mean, there's not that many users, so. So yeah,
Right.
this is the plan. Sam has been.
Yeah, so that was sort of my question for the next step. So,
Sorry, what were we gonna say, Stefan?
so Sam is gonna work on this to try to implement it. Does he need any help, or or do you want me to go into and sort of describe that narrative in a more pleasing way for people to read?
Yeah, well, that's definitely one of the things that I know that you'd have fun with and be good at is pimping out the narrative. On the dev side, I think Sam is sick today, so it's kind of bad timing. But he's in Barcelona right now at the Giveth House, and I'm sure that he would love to have a mini hack on some of this stuff, because we do have some action in the CV Sim. Let me see if I can find that. CV demo, I think that's where we're doing yeah, I think this is it here. We're gonna need to hack inside the CAD model a little bit to add some things. Not much, but just like tweak a couple graphs. And I'm also going to try to apply for a Gitcoin grant. Yeah, it's like it's a crowdfunding thing on Gitcoin. They're giving away 200K to match any donations that come in, but they match it using the like quadratic funding stuff. So I'm working on describing the projects in this Gitcoin grants right here.
Yep.
And I don't know, Spanette, if you'd be interested in putting your name down here.
Yeah, I also took a brief look before this meeting to that document. Yeah, sure. I can also help specify some things if needed. Yeah, sure. So add my name. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. Is this? I always forget your real name. Is that how it is?
Yeah. Right from the first time.
Okay. Cool. Well, my brother's name is Stefan, like that. And funny enough, my sister's name is Stephanie.
Yeah.
So why did you get let out? Why did you get let out of that? I guess the alliterations. What is the term for it?
Well, they're both half siblings. So When my mom named my brother Stefan first, and then my dad didn't know I had a brother Stefan, and he named his daughter Stephanie just randomly. So,
wow.
yeah. Coincidences,
Twist of fate.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm just meant to have brothers
Stephanie
and
and
sisters named Stefan. What?
I said so. It's Stefan, Stephanie, and Griffin.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, and I have to ask TJ if he will wants to be in this. But Ravi, you're okay being in on this,
Yeah.
Grant?
Of course.
So I think the goal will be to hire a designer and to like pimp out our spec a little bit, so that we have like drop pictures and stuff like that. But yeah, that's my plan right now is to kind of get this posted ASAP, hopefully today. So if you guys have any thoughts on this, or you want to give it a read through, that would be super cool.
Yeah, if you want, I can take a look into that later today or after the call. Is there any deadline for doing that, or is it just continuously until whenever like they run out of money to fund it? Or
Yeah, it started yesterday, so people are already starting to donate. So like the sooner we get up there, the more eyes will get to see this. And then but it doesn't end until the 21st or 22nd or something like that, sometime in the 20th. So we have I think we have 2 or 3 weeks.
yeah, and then so they look at how many people contributed for that, and then they, after that, the 21st, what did you say, they're going to match that with their funding pool, or is that the way it's worked?
Yeah, exactly. So the more people you have donate, the more matching you get to the total amount. So you want donations by a lot of people, and it's better if they donate more, but it's more important that they donate at all.
Yeah, I see.
So I'm basically asking. I'm gonna make once this goes out, I'm gonna make a big rallying call and try to get everyone to just give us $5. That's the plan. That's pretty much the main plan, and hopefully we'll be able to get a few $5 donations.
Yeah, should be doable, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have a pretty strong community, and I think we can get 20 plus people donating.
Yeah, I mean, whatever helps the project is good, I guess.
Yeah, and with that, we can throw some money to people who are working on this thing too, and we can hire a designer. We can get Sam to put some more time on it. Spanette, maybe you'd be interested in getting a little bit of money for your work. Ravi, same, and we can start getting people to commit to this project, which would be cool.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'll certainly pitch in on getting that Gitcoin grant text also fleshed out a little bit more.
Nice, yeah, and really that's all I have for this call. So
a call that ends earlier than its
No
intended length. No, it's also a first.
Yeah, trying, well, if you want, we can just talk about our day. No, just kidding. Let's take the time and work on some of these documents. I think the 1.0 spec needs a lot of fleshing out. before I add it. Before the main things are for me are to get this Gitcoin grant going and flesh out the 1.0 spec as well, because I feel like that's a nice inclusion into the Gitcoin grant. It's kind of part of it. So that's like my main project for the day. And I'm happy to collab on that during this 20 minutes too, if and just stay on the call if there's questions about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine with me.
And Spunet, would you be down to try to reach out to Sem on an individual basis and see if he needs any help on the dev side of things?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to catch up with him to see, because the way I look at it, it would be awesome if he would be able to sort of make that interaction between that CatCAD backend and the front end a little smoother, right? Because the way it's described right now, that it is really some sort of almost a batched thing that has to be sent and then crunched through and then sent back to the front end. It sounds rather cumbersome. So I don't know if he's ever explored the possibility of even running that somehow client side, and also with that aversion towards that Google solution. I think there's a big difference in like running the simulation and like deploying a solution. Like deploying a solution would be like to actually deploy commons and run it. I mean, I can totally understand it. Nobody wants to run the latter on Google, but like if Google provides a very smooth thing to just integrate that simulation, it's a one-off thing, right? It's not that you're like building out and putting the destiny of your commons into the hands of Google by just having them run your simulation. So I don't know where that fear is coming from to just discard the possibility if they have like it's the first time I saw it this afternoon actually, that call-up thing. So I also can judge how well it works or not, but if it is a smooth solution, and like most of these Google solutions tend to be, unfortunately, it might be an easy win to actually use it, but it depends if everybody's really opposed to doing that. Of course, it's not feasible. But
it was more around the how to make a nice front end with Google Colab as a back end. Like Google, they made it easy to do, I feel like kind of an MVP where we could have kind of just a form input and we can have people start like testing different parameters and stuff, but it was never like something pretty that someone would want to use. So I think it was like, oh, we could use this Google Colab as, I don't think there was actually much aversion to like letting Google see how we successfully build commons. It was more about, I mean, there is just like, well, fuck Google, like that for sure is part of it.
Yeah.
But the other part is like, oh, well, how do we advance this project to something that looks nice that people will want to use and have an easy onboarding thing past the MVP. And it's just hard. Like you have to like, oh, well, how do we use this as a back end? How do we use this as, how do we build a front end off of it? Fuck it. Let's just go back to like a normal web app because we know how to do that,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just looking into if there was like possibility to sort of integrate with it or interface with it. You could sort of have it do the heavy lifting, but then pull out the data and just show it in your front end. But I don't know if that's possible. I should look into that first.
Yeah, I mean, we looked into it a little bit, and there were easy forms, but we couldn't figure out a way to integrate it, like with a customizable front end.
Yeah, and because what's the alternative? That we actually run a server that's able to run this Python notebooks.
Yeah, exactly. We run a server that runs cadCAD. The only issue with that is that we can only do one at a time. Like only one simulation at a time will work. Otherwise, basically, if you have two people doing it at the same time, it basically breaks CAD.
Yeah.
Ravi, as far as action steps for you, I mean, I think it would just be pimping out our documents a little bit.
Okay.
If you feel like it.
No,
and
I
for
think the document and the narrative a little bit, and explanation for each of the variables.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely still need explanation.
Yeah. I think particularly, you know how often next to certain variables they have a question mark which you hover over and it shows it shows a pop out of the description. I was thinking something like that. If they have any questions about what it is.
Yeah, I think tooltips are definitely the way. Like in our current thing that Dapline made it, you have to push a button, but the scroll over is much more inviting, you know?
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. And so are you taking point on this grant application?
I am. I'm taking point. It's and it's going to be turned in tomorrow, no matter what. Whatever we have, whatever we have, I'm going to post, and I believe we can edit it. So worst comes to worst, that's what it is. But I have a few hours today to work on it, so it should be okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think today. Yeah, I'll try to do what I can today. Maybe the second half of the day I'll have time.
Yeah, whatever gets added is cool. In the end, we can. I'm sure that we'll make some edits to this Gitcoin grants next week. So, and that'll be fine. Also, like as long as we get the grant pretty good, they're Google Doc links, so we can always edit inside that Google Doc, and that will all be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
By default, it becomes editable.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, cool. Well, I'm going to end the live stream, but I'm just going to stay here. I have about 40 minutes to work on the grant stuff. So.